There's a first. Sucked in. We used to know it as. No issue there. Finally the weather's sorted itself out. 24 hours makes all the difference. Going out of the crack sends a shiver up your spine. When you're on your last legs, we'll be able to have a bath. This happened to me once before. Sensational. We had to bum around a little bit. Maybe I'm still a bit of an amateur. See how that goes. It doesn't go into limp mode. I'm going to go through that once more. False hope or sucked in. This is Mount Connor out here. False sense of we've made it. Most people driving along here towards Uluru see this and think, oh, we've made it. Uluru. Pretty impressive in its own right. It stands about 340 metres above the surrounding landscape. I think it's peak hour. We haven't seen a car for the last 150 k's. Here they all are. Maybe they're behind us. Stuck. Couldn't get past. Mount Connor. Destination in its own right, maybe. Katajuta, the Olgas, we used to know it as. Just over here we've got Uluru, Ayers Rock we used to know it as. So this is the start of, I don't know, 3 or 4 day trip. From here we're going to head out along the Great Central Highway to just past Docker River, just into Western Australia, and then kick north on the Sandy Blight Junction track. Bit of new country at that point. Been across this central road before, but haven't been up the Sandy Blight Junction track. Finally the weather's sorted itself out, well, for a few days anyway. By the looks of things, the sun's out. It's quite bright. I haven't seen the sun for a few days. Yesterday afternoon finally poked its head out, dried a few things out. Flies have come with it, of course. Anyway, what we're going to do, we're going to head off. Day's getting on already. We had to bum around a little bit at Yulara, top up fuel and a few supplies, get things sorted there. Dry out. Now we got a trip out into the desert, following the footsteps of old Len Beadell. Come along with us. So from Katajuta, or from the national park I suppose, it's about 182 kilometres to Docker River, and then a further half a dozen k's or 190 k's all up to the WA border. It's only just past there that we swing to the north on the Sandy Blight Junction track. So I think there's a reasonable amount of that distance is sealed, but time will tell. It's been a few years since we're along here, so it's possibly had the seal extended. So we'll make the most of it while it's here. Just cruise along. It's a pretty good road. All too soon it'll be unsealed and probably corrugated to bilio. From the Uluru servo, where we filled up to here, it was about 105 k's of bitumen. A fair bit of new bitumen there, which was good. Great bit of road actually. But what's funny is the difference a day makes. Yesterday and every day prior to that, whenever we pulled up, we were looking for the sun. Today, we pull up, first thing we did was try and find some shade. 24 hours makes all the difference. So we'll go down to about 38 in the front and about 45 in the back. 48 in the back. See how that goes. Central Road running west in our case from Uluru. It's actually an awesome drive. It's probably not overly recognised as a touring route. I certainly don't see a lot or hear a lot about it. It's an outback touring route, but it's pretty spectacular. You're passing through the ranges, great spinifex country, scrub, mulga scrub, sheoak stands. Mountain ranges are actually pretty spectacular, and the road is, well, in this instance, it's in pretty good nick. We're able to comfortably sit on 75 to 80, probably do more if I wanted to, but I don't want to, don't need to, probably shouldn't, certainly not busy. We are in the middle of the school holidays, so I'd expect a little bit of traffic on it, but I'm going to rate this pretty good so far on a day like today when the sun's out. It's a good day, it's not overly hot, it's not a lot of dust, flies aren't too bad. Yeah, it's got to be going for it. We're about 30-35 k's from the Western Australian border, so it's a bit less to Dockarua. I might weigh up whether we're going to get any juice, any fuel there or not. So I probably don't need fuel for what we got planned, but you know, when you're out in these parts, it probably doesn't hurt to fuel up whenever the opportunity arises. I just had a flashing oil can symbol come up on the dash. I suspect I know what it is. Whenever things like that happen, it sends a shiver up your spine. You think, oh my God, what's wrong? We're a long way from anywhere. Just as I pulled up here and slowed down, it then said, change the engine oil. So it's the service interval reset, I think, has come up saying it's due for an oil change. Well, it's not. There's no issue there. I think from memory, and this has happened to me before, if you drive about 2,000 k's, it just goes out automatically. It doesn't go into limp mode or shut the car down. But it's a good time for us to just make sure that that is the problem, or that is what's going on, and have a quick check. Make sure we don't have anything going on under here that's problematic, and there's no shortage of oil in there. And I can't see any leaks anywhere. If you're ever going to get a flashing light, that's probably the one to get. Fortunately, it was lunchtime. Oh, Jesus, ass up. Fortunately, it's lunchtime, and there happened to be an awesome stand of these she oaks. And by all accounts, it looks like it's our grader camp, actually. If your cutting edge is laying over there. So, a bit of shade. We'll let it all cool down. We'll go through the reset, which I'll run through that a bit later on. I've got a little code, that sequence that you can run through to reset the engine service interval thing. It's worked for me before. This happened to me once before, and I think we were out Nullumbi way somewhere and it happened. And once again, it sends a shiver down your spine. You think, oh dear, what's wrong? Long way from home. Usually when we pull up at places like this, we tend to stumble across Mum's Bistro. Fortunately, it happens to get rolled out wherever we stop. Not sure what's on the menu. We won't put orders in, we just take what's on the menu. Otherwise we find that there's usually nothing available. Mum's throwing together a couple of sangers by the looks of things, so that's what's on the menu. We'll take that. Check this out though, cracking spot. If you ever want to find a spot and pull up and have half a cup and put the nose bag on, this is it. A good stand of she oak. It's been stunted, real low stunted, looks like sort of mulga scrub until now, and then we just broke into this she oak country again, and well, what a great spot. I reckon the grader operator thinks the same thing. Our sequence for turning off that engine oil warning light, or that change engine warning light, is switch ignition on. Waiting a few seconds till all that cluster does its thing, which it's done. Press the accelerator pedal and start a timer, Mum, 15 seconds. After 15 seconds, press the brake pedal 10 times without releasing the throttle.
14, 15.
Righto. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Switch the ignition off. Release the accelerator pedal. After 30 to 40 seconds, start the engine, and the warning light flashing oil can symbol should be off. Okay, so that's 40-45 seconds. We'll go through the startup procedure. Didn't work. It's worked before, so it didn't work. What did I do differently? I'm going to go through that once more. So I ran that sequence again, and I did a couple of things differently. I happen to have a left-hand front indicator bulb out at the moment, so it's sending up warnings on the dash as well, so I'm not worried about that. So what I did was, when I put that initial ignition on and let it run through its checks, I waited till all that warning and advice and stuff disappeared. It'd gone through its complete cycle. So that was one thing I did differently. The other thing I did was I actually put my foot on the accelerator all the way to the floor when I went through the whole sequence. So they were the two things I did differently, and it's worked. So we've got rid of that change engine oil advice warning, and the flashing oil can's gone. So we'll give that a 2 thumbs up. Lassiter's Cave. Fascinating story of perseverance, desperation maybe. Lassiter's Reef. Probably a legendary Australian story. By all accounts, this is where he came to grief. Not a bad spot though. Probably pretty miserable if you're on your last legs. Big creek bed right through here. Probably was dry as a bloody bone at the time. The other thing is, we're in big hat territory. Finally. It's not particularly big when it goes back 10, I don't know, probably 20 feet all up from the drip line to the back. I mean, it's big enough to stand up in. Certainly would be appreciated, get you out of that bloody scorching sun. But I suspect more often than not the old creek bed here doesn't have anything in it, no water. When you're on your last legs, yeah, it's probably a bit of a rugged spot. They certainly keep you out of the elements, that's for sure. Better than the alternative. So we put a splash of fuel in at Docker River, $3.10 a litre I think. For this morning's drive I was averaging 13.5 litres per 100k, so that's probably the best we've had for a while. So we've just crossed over the border into Western Australia. We don't do that too often actually, so when we do it's worth celebrating. Hooray! It's about 25 k's from the border to our turn off, Sandy Blight Junction track. Sites probably will dictate how far we go. The road certainly changed once we crossed the border. Western Australia road construction techniques are a bit different to Northern Territory techniques. It's a bit looser actually, it's a bit more gravelly and dustier. This is a leg of our journey we have long awaited for. A network of tracks across the western deserts await us. And having traversed iconic routes previously, such as the Canning Stock route, we were well aware of what the Gibson Desert could offer. An inconspicuous sign is all that marks the southern end of the Sandy Blight Junction track. This would be where we leave the Great Central Road and head into the Gibson Desert proper. Turned on to the Sandy Blight Junction track, and going by the notes it's about 330 k's through here till we hook up to the Gary Junction track. I was just watching my GPS there and I just noticed the time and it says 1:45, 1:42. So gee, we're making good time. I thought the day was well more advanced than that. The lad reminded us that we've just lost 2 hours because we've gone into Western Australia. Crossing a line on a map, we gained an extra 2 hours in our day. It's a bit more of a road than what we were probably anticipating. We'll take that. So we'll poke along here, not sure where we're going to get to. There's no real destination on the radar. Probably just about what's on offer at the right time of the day. We just were poking along the road there, the main road, and we knew that there was a site just off the side here, according to the map, Bunga rock hole. The good thing about the truck is you're just sitting up a little bit higher, because the roads tend to be a bit sort of dipped, and so if you're down in the dip it's hard to see over the crest of the shoulder, but in the truck you're just a little bit proud and you can see over. And where we thought there should be a track, yep, there's one poking off over there. So we've come across this crack of a little campsite. Nice bit of bush, but probably most importantly is that there's this big range out the back here, the Walter James Range. Anyway, right up the back here looks like there's a cleft and a bit of a gorge. How's the colours? This is awesome. pretty spectacular. It's actually flowing ever so slightly. Little waterfall up here we'll go and have a look at, but might just be a glistening of water coming over the edge. This is a pretty special spot, I think. Sensational. Bunga rock hole.
Old.
Interesting, you can see the high water mark. Should be like another 4 foot, 3 foot, 4 foot.
Then it would flow out. Maybe.
At that point it'd be flowing over, yeah. I suspect the gorge itself continues up, goes around the corner there, but I don't think we're going to start scaling any cliffs to check it out. Wow, this is incredible. Bit of artwork, rock art just over here. And some figs, rock figs, holding on, growing out of the cracks of the rocks. Nice big gum tree. It's got its feet in the water and reckons it's onto a good thing. I reckon if we sat here long enough we'd see a few rock wallabies too. Well, I think we've stumbled across something pretty special here. You just want to be quiet. You could certainly come in here and do a bit of soul searching, that's for sure. You can just see around the edge there a high water mark. About another 3 feet, 4 feet a metre. And at that point I suspect it just flows over this little wall that we're sitting on. And off it goes. There's a first. Managed to get it started with the ferro stick. Took a while. I would have said this is perfect conditions. There's still a little bit of moisture in the grass. Maybe I'm still a bit of an amateur. The lad's observed how to do it. He can do it next time. It's as good as it gets at the moment, so if I couldn't get it going then I'd probably have to give up on that idea. Stick to the jiffy fire lighter and gas lighter. Well, what a crack of a day so far. Camp set up, fire's going, pile of wood, crack of a spot surrounded by this range. What's the range called?
Walter James.
Walter James. And the name of the rock hole? No.
Bunga Biddy. Bunga Biddy. Bunga Biddy.
Bunga Biddy?
Bunga Biddy.
We'll settle on Bunga Biddy. Just up here, it's only half a k, 600 metres, 650 maybe, one way. Sun's gone down just behind the range, Walter James range. I think the important thing is something missing.
Billy.
There's no billy on the fire. Like that. Something like that. Magic. If only it was that easy.
flies in.
No generator, no traffic.
I can hear the fridge.
I can hear a cricket near the fridge. And the crow. Morning. How cool's this? Sun just coming up, just about to lick the horizon. 2 billies on, just about boiled. Fire's going. It's actually about 14 degrees this morning. It's warm. Shirt, first time the whole trip. Warm. Orange glow on the Walter James range behind us. Sun's just about to hit the tops there, I think, and then it'll make its way down. This is what it's all about. There was not a noise last night. There was no generator, no traffic, no rain, no wind. It's taken us a couple of weeks to get here, but this is what we're aiming for. Is this the destination? The destination was the experience, I think, rather than the site, but the site's just added to the experience. We've got bubbly water. To fill the thermos up, turn around and take in the vibe. Just a little stick fire this morning, just to get enough fire to boil the billy and maybe cook a bit of toast or something. But by not having a raging fire and a big bed of heavy coals, makes it a lot easier to put it out later on. We've kept all our dregs of water, dishwater and bits and pieces, washing up water, so when we are finished here we can put the fire out without any extra water. It's a bit precious when you're out in this desert country. No half a cup there. The Sandy Blight Junction track was constructed by the Gun Barrel Road Construction Party under the guidance of Len Beadell in around March to July 1960. This 331 kilometre track connects the Jukarara, or the extension of the Great Central Road, with the Garry Junction Road and skirts Lakes MacDonald and Hopkins, along with numerous mountain ranges, namely the Bonnython, the Sir Frederick, the Ellis, the Robert and the Walter James. Most of Australia's arid deserts are now home to the feral camel, Camelus dromedarus. It is believed there are in excess of 1 million Arabian camels roaming those deserts, making it the largest camel herd in the world. Scientists estimate the numbers are increasing at about 8% per year. Pretty early start this morning. Well, that depends on which clock we look at. So if we're Western Australian time, we had an early start, which I suppose that's factually correct, but it seems not appropriate to the timing of the sun. It was about 9 o'clock South Australia, Northern Territory time. Not the earliest start, but Western Australian time, 7 o'clock. Cracker of a start. And it was a cracker of a morning in camp too. That was textbook perfect campsite. We'll take them whenever we can. So we're not real sure where we're heading, other than we're heading along the Sandy Blight Junction track. The map's a bit featureless, so we'll just be poking around, having a look, sector of the Gibson Desert, sandhill country, but we're also in range country, so we've still got mountain ranges, 600-700 metres in elevation. So all in all, it's pretty spectacular.
If you're thinking of heading out this way, you're going to need a couple of permits. They can be obtained from the Nanyajara Land Council. You'll also need a permit for the Great Central and Yakarura roads. At the southern end of the track, fuel's available at Docker River, or at the northern end at the Kinsaw community.
We just pulled over for half a cup, bit of smoko amongst the desert oaks. They always afford good shade any time of the day. You just move around the tree depending on where the shade is. I mean, it's not overly critical for us at the moment. It's not that hot, about 18 degrees. We're overlooking these big flood plains, part of Lake Hopkins system. We've just sort of touched on the edge of it. It's quite extensive and we're just sort of picking up the edges of it. Good opportunity to have a wash, a bath. Just stumbled across this bore. It's not marked on the maps or anything. Good, clean, fresh water. Thought it was an exercise equipment being dumped in the bush. Well, it is. Mum's getting exercise. We'll be able to have a bath. Oh, it's even pleasantly warm. Oh, how good's that? Middle of the Gibson Desert, having a wash. Giles certainly would have appreciated coming across a bore like that when he was dehydrated and desperate for a bit of water on his last legs. Gibson had gone walkabout in the desert, couldn't be found. The horses had gone. They obviously didn't come past here. So we finally found what the lad's been looking for. Track, the road that we've been on, Sandy Blight Junction Road. Once we got past the intersection that leads into the community of Chikurla, might have that slightly wrong, about 70-75 k's from the Great Central Road. Obviously the road's maintained for community access, and beyond there we've hit the track, reduced in width, hasn't had a machine on it, a grader on it for a while. Never. Oh well, obviously has originally, in Len Beadell's day. We're on a track, so the lad will be a bit more chuffed about that, I suspect.
Throughout the 1960s, surveyor Len Beadell supervised the Gun Barrel Road construction party to build most of the roads through the western deserts, with feats such as the Garry Junction Road, the Garry Junction Highway, the Sandy Blight Junction Road, the Gun Barrel Highway, the Eagle Highway, the Len Beadell Highway. The list goes on. Clearly a remarkable man, Len is considered one of Australia's greatest explorers.
Just pulled up at our Len Beadell marker tree. Plaque on the tree there. It's actually a replica, been replaced in 2000. Not sure exactly what happened to the first one, whether it was burnt or knocked off. Hopefully it wasn't knocked off. Suspect it might have been. Interestingly, the marker happens to be right on the side of the track.
Well,
interesting. So maybe Len followed the track. Nice little spot, bit of shade. There's another one a little bit further up, halfway mark. So we're going to push on up there, probably put the nose bag on up there, something to eat. There's a lot of effort going into it. The blaze on the tree, stainless plaque, or maybe it's aluminium, number punched, letter punched. Talks about 100 miles to the Gun Barrel that way, 150 odd mile to the Sandy Blight Junction that way. The date that the observation was taken, a lat long for the observation. Fair bit of effort going into it. It's been a great little bit of track along there, ducking and weaving, not a lot of straight sections, certainly in sandhill country, and Len talks about this in one of his books, that it was actually quite hard work punching the track through because it wasn't straight. They've got all these sand hills, they're not dunes, they're just hills that are all very random. There's no sequence to them, there's no pattern to them, and so the track's having to weave its way through. When he put it in, he sort of couldn't just pick a straight line, had to duck and weave. Took a fair bit of effort. Certainly makes for a great drive though. You don't have these long straight stretches where people put the power down and bloody corrugate them up. There's no shortage of corrugations, but because the track ducks and weaves and winds, you've got to sort of poke along slower, and we don't tend to get the corrugations.
Like any unmaintained road, sections of this road have succumbed to the lack of maintenance, and like so much of this road, the camels clearly define it as the path of least resistance, with evidence of them trekking for miles overnight. The original road construction consisted of a large cat bulldozer blazing the track across the desert, diligently following the alignment Len had mapped out prior. This was then followed by the Cat number 12 grader, forming the road and ensuring the track had some semblance of a well-constructed easement, suitable to service the outback for years to come.
For the most part, been able to just be in high range, fourth gear. Certainly haven't needed to be in any lower range. When the tyres were cold this morning, I dropped a bit more air out of them. Once they warmed up, I pulled over and dropped a bit more again, so I'm down to 18 at the front, 28 at the back. That seems to be a pretty good pressure. Now we just pulled up to put the nose bag on under the shade of Len Beadell's blaze trees. This one's considered the halfway mark between Giles and Sandy Blight Junction itself, so about 124, 125 mile either way. There's the halfway tree on the Sandy Blight Junction track. There's a great story that goes with this part of the world, and Len Beadell and the gun barrel construction party. And the story goes that the grader broke down while they were constructing the Gary Junction Road there, east-west. They had to get it to Giles for repair, so it's a fair way. So they towed the old grader with the dozer all the way to Giles for repair. Once it was repaired, turn around and back up and finish what they were doing. I think they did that over 2 seasons. And another incident that occurred up there was the old, I think it was the tucker truck, the supply truck burnt, and it's subsequently been salvaged and put on display, I think at Wirrakara or something like that, on the Gary Junction Highway. We won't see that this trip. Anyway, like anything, any work that goes on in this sort of country, there's going to be some great stories that go with it. The Len Beadell blaze tree, he often erected a post or made a blaze in a tree, existing tree, to signify a particular milestone. In this instance, it's halfway. Giles, Sandy Blight Junction. We've got Mum's Bistro putting together a spread for lunch. We enjoy it. We never quite know what's going to be on the menu, but whatever it is, we'll enjoy it and we appreciate it. One thing I've noticed about Mum's Bistro is the lad always hovering. Whenever the bistro's open, you can be assured the lad won't be too far away. It's a sixth sense. He just knows when to come running. The bistro's open, you might hear something and a little alarm, there's something goes off, bang! He's on site. In this instance though, he's putting in a bit of effort. We're passing through a lot of this country vegetated by the desert oaks, and they're a fascinating plant in that they take a long time to establish, and what they're doing is they're actually sending down a big root. It just keeps going until it gets itself into the the water course down into the subsurface and finds a good supply of water down into the water table. And while it's doing that, the tree itself stays immature and minimal growth. It's all going on in the ground. Once it gets a good foothold there, it'll start growing. What happens is it'll grow tall and slender like we can see out here, and it relies on that root system sort of expanding under the ground. And as the root system expands underground, so does the foliage above. And you swing around, you can see some of the more mature trees, they've got more broader canopy, and that's because the root system is also broader underneath, and the canopy's kept up with the root system. In fact, the canopy's feeding the root system as well, because the leaves, the vegetation on them, is actually long and slender, and it's all pointing down. And what that does is all the moisture on those leaves, for a better term, is actually runs off and drips straight down. It doesn't hold the water, it drips straight down and feeds the root system. And the other thing is, being long and slender, they got minimal exposure to the sun, so they don't get too hot, don't get cooked. So they're all working in harmony to feed the roots to survive. And just looking through a stand like this, you can see the different stages of development till you look at the big daddy right here next to the truck, which is actually the blaze tree. You know, it's got a big broad canopy, and no doubt the root system matches. Just coming up towards the Sir Frederick Range, we're going to sidle along it for a little bit. We've climbed a little bit of elevation. We're up to about 600 metres above sea level here. You sort of feel like, oh, the desert's all low-lying country, flat. Well, it's not flat either actually, but there's a fair bit of elevation in it. The mountain range is another 100, 200 metres higher than what we are. The other fascinating thing with this Sir Frederick Range is it's actually not a rocky escarpment, it's rolling green hills. It's almost like you're in agricultural country. Another Len Beadell blaze tree just here, 140 miles to the main road. I guess that's what we call the Great Central Road now. Got to leave the car running because it's a bit warm now, and we need the air conditioner to keep the cab cool. One of those modern luxuries. I'm sure in his day Len would have given anything for a bit of air conditioning in his old Series 1 Land Rover. Probably just another complexity that he didn't need, but at the time I'm sure it would have been greatly appreciated. It's only 28 degrees at the moment for us, and we certainly appreciate the air conditioning. Look, it's quite pleasant out here in the shade. A bit different if I stand in the sun too long. It starts getting a little bit mild. You wonder how much life's left in the old desert oak there. It's had a major limb come off that side there, laying down. No, it's half the tree peeled away in the wind, age, all of that. You just wonder how much life's left in the old tree. Saying that the plaques were replaced in the year 2000, so they're all reproductions. So what's that, 24 years old now. Not sure what happened to the originals. No doubt somebody knocked them off, unfortunately. That's what I'm guessing. Anyway, not sure how much life's left in this one, but I'm sure enthusiasts will resurrect the plaque in due course and have a fitting reminder of the exploration and exploits of old Len Beadell, considered to be probably the last great explorer, and some would argue is probably one of the greatest explorers of Australia. Yeah, I'll leave that one with you to ponder. Oh, we've pulled up for the night. Depending on which time zone we're in, if we stand over here, it's 2:30 in the afternoon. If we stand over here, it's 4:30 in the afternoon, almost. The Northern Territory border's just over here a little bit, and we're in WA. Anything that's connected to satellite suggests that it's 2:30. The watch and the sun suggest it's probably closer to 4:30. We just pulled up here, found a corner in the track where we could just duck off, and quite a big expansive area here. It's had plenty of people camp here over the years by the looks of things, and probably the reason why is there's an old boar. Well, in fact, It's not that old by the looks of things, but it's been damaged, broken off. Just out here, right on the corner of the road. We'll have a look at that. But it's been snapped off, unfortunately, so it's inoperable. Would have been nice. A few extra litres of water to have a splash in tonight. Very similar, just a hand pump like we saw further down the track. Anyway, it's not to be, but we've got over the back just to here, got a bloody camel been gurgling and bellowing and farting and carrying on. Just poking around. Haven't sighted it, but we can hear it. It's probably watching us. We've seen a few camels today, and there's some fresh prints around camp. The lad's setting up his abode. Mum set up the donga, and had half a cup out of the thermos just to settle in. We'll scrounge up a bit of wood and get a fire going shortly. So we come in along the Great Central Road here, which is Uluru that way, Yalara. Docker River just here, it's about 20 k's to the turn-off. And we've been following this Sandy Blight Junction track. Last night we camped just down here at Bunga Rock Hole. That's about 25, 27 k's from the start of the track. Then we've been poking along up here. So the road had been graded in some capacity to this point here, which goes into Chakala community, and even a little bit less so graded to this point, another intersection, but from there on it was ungraded track. And this is where we found this bore earlier on as the track heads off into the hills. Management vehicle only, it says. And we've continued on. There's a couple of Len Beadell points of interest and plaques along the way, and just up the top here there's just before the Territory border, so this is the Western Australia Northern Territory border here. Just before the border there's a bore marked on the map. That's where we're camped tonight, but the bore is no longer. So there's a can or plaque on Len Beadell plaque on the corner there on the border. We'll see that tomorrow. And then the Sandy Blight Junction comes in here. We keep wandering along. Probably going to see some change in conditions just here somewhere where there's another track going into Newman before we hit the main Gary Junction Road. We've been using the HEMA Great Desert Tracks map book and maps, and this actually has a dedicated section on this track, Sandy Blight Junction track. So unfortunately the old bore is no more. I suspect somebody's run into it, backed into it, drove into it deliberately, accidentally, not quite sure. A bit vulnerable there, I suppose. No fence or anything around, no bollard, stop that happening. The road is just here, Sandy Blight Junction track, so it's only 20 metres off the track, and it's a well established campsite, no doubt. There's a bit of a gathering point, there's water, so there's going to be a good spot to stop. So we're tucked in right out the back here, little secluded spot nestled in amongst the sort of this low acacia. It's pretty dense through here, so it blocks out any view for us. We're a bit hidden, if you like. Also keep the wind down if there happen to be any. We clocked up about 150, 170 k's today. It was a pretty good run. Started off on a semi-maintained section of track, but that soon diminished once we went past the turn off to a community that turned into a track per se. No maintenance possibly since the track was originally put in. It was pretty corrugated. A lot of the traffic through here is not running tyre pressures low enough, and hence it just corrugates up big time. The last section, probably the last 10 k's, was horrendous actually. I'm not sure why. Something to do with this spot, this gathering point here, the water point. Still took a bit. Oh, morning. It's getting on a little bit actually. The sun's got a little bit of height in it already. Where is it? Out there. Far off the deck. So we're just doing the last of the packing up. It was a crack of a night. Good campsite. It was still, it was dry. Wasn't a noise other than old mate Camel out the back here. He was having a bit of a grunt. Carry on. Well, he might have been doing it all night. Not sure. We didn't hear it, so it doesn't matter. So just a couple of last bits and pieces to do. Put the ash bed out. I just sit it on the side of this old fire scar here and use our waste water to quench the fire. Interestingly enough, after full night, last night's fire and this morning's little billy fire, there's lucky to be half a bucket of ash. No, not even that, nowhere near it. So it's very efficient, the old Snow Peak fire pit. We've been using it for a while, and it's an absolute ripper. Fantastic, perfect for this sort of trip. So today's plan is to mosey on a bit further up this Sandy Blight Junction track. We should easily hit the Gary Junction Road today and then wander along. I think we got about 250 k's of that before we sort of have to make a decision whether to head out, swing out to the Tanami, or swing down back into the West McDonald's. I think the latter is probably more likely to occur. We've still got a bit of time up our sleeve, so I think we're going to poke around in there, but that'll be another trip, another video. Anyway, we'll finish packing down and hit the road. It should be a little bit smoother first thing, because the tyre pressures will be probably 5 psi lower than they were at the end of the day yesterday. We might, once they warm up, I might drop a little bit more out of them. We're going to hit a community track up the road here, so I suspect the road will chop out even more after that. In fact, yesterday afternoon it was pretty ordinary, and I'm just wondering if the tyre pressures increased during the heat of the afternoon and made it feel even worse. So anyway, we'll watch that. We'll drop them down. We're down to about 18 at the front, and I think it was 28 at the back. We might even drop another 5 out of them, just to smooth that ride out. How you been finding the stretcher?
It's very good, very comfortable.
On the 10th of June 1960, Len Beadell used the stars to determine the exact location of the border, Northern Territory, Western Australia, and he laid down this plaque, or installed this plaque, right on the border. Pretty clever. It seems to be very accurate, even given today's mapping and GPS capabilities. It still puts the border right at the same spot. He was a pretty clever cookie using the stars and maths. All you kids that are wondering what the value of maths is. So there you go, Len Beadell's border post marker. It's been a pretty good drive this morning. We've just backed the speed right off just to poke along. A lot easier on the car, a lot easier on us. You hit this ironstone country, or country that's got a bit more ironstone in it, and it corrugates real bad. Where it's just pure sand, it seems to be a lot better, the surface. Yeah, the ironstone, it's like a real little gravelly, marbly sort of thing, but it gets real sharp corrugations, and they're not sort of rolling, they're just boom, 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 boom. Anyway, we're in no hurry. Got a little outcrop, a little flourish of sticky grevillea or honey grevillea. I think that's what they are. It's a bit hard to tell if they're just on their way to bloom or they're beyond their bloom. I'm looking a bit sad, so I feel like they're probably just past their prime. But on a good day, when they're in full flight and good production, you can actually take the actual flower and suck the pollen out of it, or the nectar out of it, and they're real sweet. You can actually put it in water and make a bit of a syrupy cordial type thing as well. They're still a bit tacky. I think they're past it.
Easy rider on the highway, station wagon going slow, windows open, you are basking with your hand out on the wind. I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Pink azaleas by your driveway shade our leisurely goodbyes. In your terry cotton sweater, with your arms sweeping the sky.
We've got the Davenport Hills behind us here and the track, we're going in a nice straight line, and then it takes a big sharp bend and shoots it straight over here, and once we get here it's got a big sharp bend going back the other way. So I think old Len Beadell decided, let's go and look at the hills and we'll take everyone with us. So we've darted over here, had a look at the hills, and the track takes off. There's a new cut through that you can avoid coming out here, probably saves a couple of K, but you missed the view. The Davenport Hills. Old Len went out of his way to make sure we got a close and good look at it. Thanks, Len. According to the marker just here, this is the Tropic of Capricorn. Doesn't quite line up with our maps, our HEMA maps, so not sure which one's out. Probably not too much in it. Given the equipment that was being used in the day, it's probably not too bad. They're probably dragging an old chain around and doing their measurements and the odd lights and stars, as we know, doing all the maths. Our map's not showing this as being the Tropic of Capricorn, but given that Len's marker says it is, we'll go with Len's marker for the sake of this trip. There's another post just out the back here marking the opening of a road or something. It's a bit hard to read, but there's a cap on the top of the post that's lead, I think. It's as heavy as Orbilio. And if we have a look straight down the road that we're driving on, there's a ripper peak, Mount Mean, I think, straight out off our nose. That's the way we're heading. The country's just gone really flat. We've gone out of the sandhills and had a mountain range just back here, the Davenport Hills. We've sort of left them behind, and now it's just flat. Well, there's no sandhills now. It's changed altogether. So maybe we're coming out of the eastern side of the Gibson Desert itself. It's warming up a bit. It's about 24.5 degrees or thereabouts, so we've got the air conditioning on. We're fortunate that we've got that available. Back in 1960, old Len in his Series 1, I think it was, Land Rover, he didn't have too much air conditioning going on, and read some of his tales. In fact, 50 degrees in the shade wasn't unusual, so we are very fortunate in more ways than one, I suspect. In June 1960, when Len Beadell and the Gun Barrel Construction Party come through here, they came upon a tree, a historic tree, blaze out of it with a T and some numbers on it, supposedly celebrating or acknowledging that Titkin, who was a member of the Giles expedition back in 1874. So, but Len put up a plaque to acknowledge and commemorate the particular finding. The tree appears to be long gone. I'm not sure if his plaque is on the tree or close by. I suspect it was close by. We're getting close. I think we've only got about another 20 k's to go, and we're at the end of the Sandy Blight Junction track. But if we look straight over here behind the camera, we've got awesome view, Mount Leisler. We've just pulled up in the lee of the mount just to have a bite to eat. Day's getting on a bit. Time for a feed. Put the nose bag on, have half a cup.
I keep this folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget. Folded at the corner so that I could not forget.
But what a great spot to do it, hey? Check out this old bloodwood here. I'm pretty sure it's a bloodwood. It's got massive seed pods, flower pods on it. Some of them are the size of tennis balls. It's huge. It'd be awesome to see the old tree in full bloom. I reckon it'd be pretty spectacular going by the size of the pods on the tree, the seed pods. Pretty sure it's a bloodwood. Might be wrong. If I'm wrong and you know, whack something in the comments and let me know. But it's a high level of confidence. I just found an old one, bigger one. Check this out compared to the smaller ones I found earlier. Sandy Blight Junction track. Done. Ticked. Hopefully it's not the last time actually. That was a great drive. Best part of 350 k's from one end to the other. Plus a little bit extra to Docker River. We've just pulled out onto the Giles Junction Road. Highway. Not sure. One of them. That's the end of the Sandy Blight Junction track anyway. Len did an awesome job. Picked out the highlights. Took us close to the points of interest, which was awesome. Left his mark in terms of cans like this one or plaques. Let us know where we are and what was going on at the time. Sort of milestones if you like. We had a ball. That was a great track. It was pretty easy. Wasn't a hard track. The hardest part of the whole track were the corrugations. Generally the track was in pretty good nick, given that it probably hasn't seen a grader since the original construction. I don't know, maybe once or twice early on in the piece, but it certainly hasn't had a grader on it for a long time. Either end where you sort of link into communities gets a bit more traffic. It looks like it's had a little bit more maintenance over the years, but not necessarily any better condition. So there you have it. I hope you enjoyed that one. We had a blast going through there. It was fantastic. A couple of great campsites out in the Gibson Desert. We didn't see no one. We had the place to ourselves. 3 days, all on our own. No vehicles, no people. Perfect. Out in the Gibson Desert. It's lush, it's looking great. Great time of the year to be out here. We had a fair undertaking to get here in the first place. A few detours. We got here, had a ball. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed that one. From here we'll be heading back towards Alice on the Giles Junction Road, and we'll probably take a bit of a detour here and there and check out some of the sites in the West McDonnell Range. That might be another video coming up. Keep your eye out for that. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Give us a thumbs up if you did. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already done so. Leave a comment down below. We enjoy the comments. Most importantly, look after yourself. We'll catch you next time. See ya.